Well, today on our show, we have Shirley Thiessen. Shirley has written a book out of a painful journey in her life of losing her son, Jordan. The book is called The Little Black Funeral Dress. Also, Shirley is now the director of Corner Bend. Shirley, thank you for being here.
It's great to be here with you.
We were in touch a while back, actually a few years ago, before you wrote your book, and I encourage you to tell your story.
And God used you in a powerful way to encourage me to write that book.
Well,
so it's kind of fun to be here with you and talk about it.
It's great. Now tell our viewers just what happened with your son, Jordan.
Well, he graduated from university in April of 2012. And shortly after, found a career job in our city, Calgary, Alberta. We were so delighted he'd be living close to us because he was looking for a job anywhere in the country. And then they set the date for October 6, 2012 to be married in Calgary.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful celebration, just 50 family members and friends on a golf course.
Nice.
But sadly, 12 days after that wedding, we were planning Jordan's funeral.
Wow.
He died in a workplace accident.
Oh, Shirley. You just can't imagine, right, that would be your story.
No, it was impossible to get my head around the fact that we didn't even have the pictures back from the wedding. How could we be planning a funeral?
Yeah.
And so the same friends and family that had just been with us to celebrate were now flying back for a funeral.
You know, loss and grief, I mean, none of us can imagine, except for those who have lost a child. But I think, it's one of the more difficult losses, losing one of your children. It's just not the order of things.
It's out of order.
It is out of order. And so I really know that you writing this story, The Little Black Funeral Dress, which I have read, is personally helped me. In fact, I keep giving it away to people because it doesn't matter whether it was your son that you lost or what your loss is. Your book is so powerful, Shirley.
Thank you.
Tell us, how do you get through something like that? Like, what helps a person that's going through grief right now? And what did you learn in your journey of grief?
Well, for myself personally, I learned that there's no shortcuts to grief. You have to literally walk through the pain. And when you think of a hike up a steep mountain, which grief reminds me of, you lead with your toes. Each foot, when you put your foot in front of the other, taking that step, you lead with your toes. And so I came up with a personal acronym that helps me remember.
Okay.
And literally it's called TOES.
Okay.
So thankful trust, the first T.
What's that mean?
Well, before Jordan died, I had kept a Thanksgiving journal. And each day I would write down something I was thankful for.
Wow.
But when he died, I was in so much pain, I felt like there's nothing I can be thankful for. That's it.
Ever again.
No, ever
Maybe.
again.
Yeah.
And I realized that in order for me to come out of the bitterness that I felt myself being pulled into, I needed to sit down and start writing at least 1 or 3 things a day that I could be thankful for.
Wow. That's got to be a tough thing.
Well, it felt so hard, but I would force myself to do that because I knew that a sacrifice of praise to God is something He honors.
Yeah.
And it helped to rewire my brain.
You know what? I can relate to that. I had difficult, painful experiences in my life as well. And choosing to give thanks, it's a choice, right?
Oh, it is.
Whether you feel like it or not. And then it shifts your perspective. Tell me what the O means.
Well, O is obedience.
Okay.
To obey God.
Yeah.
Now, you can't obey God unless you trust Him. So that's why thankful trust has to come first.
Yeah. It starts with that heart of trust.
Yes.
Wow. And then willing to do whatever He asks of you?
Well, yes. In fact, I found out very early that God will often ask us to do things out of our comfort zone, even in our pain. God brought opportunities to share my story. Yeah. And I had said, God, I will always say yes to you as you promise to recycle my pain for your good purpose. I will participate.
Wow.
But then please don't ask me to do anything too difficult because you know how fragile I am.
So don't ask me to write a book and have like a ministry on grief and now helping people, right? It's a good thing God didn't listen to you.
Well, it's a good thing I said yes at the beginning because otherwise I would have said, oh, no, that's too hard.
Yeah.
And so I've learned to say yes, freak out a little bit and go, okay, God, you're going to have to help me because I cannot do this on my
for
own.
obedience. So good. I'm glad you obeyed, because your term, reading your book and getting to meet you, is like you said, letting God recycle your pain. You wrote that in a book you gave me, and that meant a lot to me. I've walked that journey too, of letting God recycle my pain.
Right.
And it's a great walk of obedience. Okay, TOE. What's E?
Eternal perspective.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's true. Our light and momentary troubles are pale in comparison to the wonderful eternity that we have with God.
Yeah.
And I need to keep reminding myself of that.
Yeah.
Like this pain, although it feels so immense, it will disappear in heaven.
Yeah. Sometimes I think, here's this life on earth, and then here's eternity I can't even reach, right?
Right.
And that's the eternal perspective. So TOES.
Well, the other one is so counterintuitive. So S is for serving others.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't feel like...
S is not for self-care?
No.
Now, that's important, but...
Well, it is.
Tell me about that, serving others. Wow.
So I remember feeling so exhausted, because grief is exhausting, and feel like, God, I got nothing. And yet I felt him whisper, I want you to serve others. I'm like, seriously, what can I do?
Yeah.
I can hardly get out of my house. And he dropped this thought in my head. He said, Jordan doesn't need you to pray for him anymore. He's in heaven. I am looking after absolutely every need. But those 3 young men that were his best friends, who were his groomsmen and then were his pallbearers, I want you to pray for them as you would as a mother for her sons.
Wow.
And so I put their names in my prayer journal where I'd previously had Jordan's, and I started praying for them as the sons of my heart.
That's
and
amazing.
That was a very simple thing, but I felt like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
And over time, God has added more young men for me to pray for. So now I have it on an Excel spreadsheet, because there's 98 of them.
That's amazing. And that's one step at a time. Like you said, toes, one step at a time.
One little step at a time.
I know there's people watching, they're going through grief, and I really know that that's going to help them, right? It gives them a handle. But sometimes it's not us going through grief, it's other people. And you have another acronym that you have in your book, that's LAP.
LAP.
How to help others. Listen, acknowledge, pray, and then you said patiently be present. Right? That's really helpful. LAP. Tell me about that.
Well, the first one, listen. I realized that we're not that great at listening in our society usually. Listening means just holding space for someone, just to pour out their heart of grief and not have to edit their response, not have to have any response really, other than to nod and just affirm that.
That's good. Because we sometimes feel like we have to have the answers, but that's not it.
You don't.
And is that what acknowledge means? Just acknowledging their pain, and
just say, it must be so hard for you to think about even tomorrow without your son, or to say, I just really can imagine that this is particularly tough.
Yeah, that's good. And then pray and patiently be present. So praying with people, praying for people, but what do you mean patiently be present?
Well, I think so often we have these ideas that grief should be kind of wrapped up in a year. And so we don't remember that it is a lifeline of grieving. And so to be patient with them. They might not be responding as we think. And sometimes we project how friends should be dealing with this. And if they're not, then we go, well, come on, it's been a year.
Yeah. We put time restraints on it, but you're right, it's a journey. Your ministry, Corner Bend now, ironically, you've released this book. I know a lot of individuals, no matter what grief you're in, this is a great tool for helping you get through grief. But also, Corner Bend is working with police and different people in society. Can you just quickly tell us what Corner Bend does?
Well, basically, it's 2 things. One is to ease the burden of grief for those who are bereaved.
Okay.
So that's one part of it. But maybe the special part that I am particularly passionate about is that I want to help people, like the younger me, to come alongside their grieving friends in ways that are helpful.
Yes.
To be a hope hero by lending hope to someone whose own hope is leaking because of their grief.
Right. So if that's you today, it doesn't matter whether you're in the marketplace or in ministry, cornerbend.com, right? You can find Shirley and the resources there and this book. Thank you for being with us, Shirley.
This has been great.
Yeah. And you know what? I just thank you for your encouragement in my life. And I just say, keep going.
Thank
Keep
you.
going.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.